Hello everyone, welcome to podcast number 32. Today we are going to talk about crossover games in recent news of Phoenix Wright versus Professor Layton. Two games that I have never played, and I am leading this podcast. Luckily here with me are Paul Franzen, Michael Gray, hey, and wait,
no booing the editor-in-chief.
Who is this guy booing us? I don't know. Is there a fourth member of the podcast? Oh, wait, that's right. We've got Michael Ridgaway here.
Yeah, Michael Ridgway's the greatest. Woo!
Anyway, everyone introduce yourselves.
I'm Paul Franzen, GameCola's editor-in-chief. I also write Minus the Pudding, the best of Xbox Live indie games, reviews, and various news posts, mostly about Phoenix Wright and Back to the Future.
Back to the Future is awesome. When's it coming out?
December, I think. The first episode comes out in December.
I'm Michael Gray, and I don't know what I do anymore. I'm kind of like not on the staff and kind of on the staff.
So you're like the Schrodinger's cat of the Heisenberg uncertainty principle of GameCola.
He has often been described that way.
Yes.
And I'm Michael Ridgaway, and as I mentioned before, I'm the greatest. And I do Quantum Geek and other random...
Yeah, you missed your deadline, by the way.
I was getting married.
You still missed it. Tell Vangie she missed her deadline, too.
When was our deadline?
I don't know. Yesterday.
It's on the podcast. That erases his deadline. It's once a month, right?
Ugh.
Is it?
The Quantum Geek fans are very upset about this. There's that one person who posts the comment on each one. She's very, very concerned.
Okay, well, that makes me feel bad now, actually. I will work with it. Actually, the next article is probably going to be about the wedding. Because there were some
Quantum Geek?
No, and the next thing I post will be about the wedding. Because
cool.
There were some very wonderfully dorky things about our wedding.
I saw the picture of your cake topper. I won't spoil what it is, though.
Best cake topper ever.
That could be an awesome plot twist for Quantum Geek if the, I'm totally blanking on the characters' names, but if they had to get married, that could be interesting.
They're in Monkey Island right now, and there are weddings at Monkey Island, so...
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
What if Quantum Geek did a crossover with Gamer Girlfriend? Crossover.
Already happened, Paul. Already happened. That was in... When did that happen?
January 2009,
it was a Janet.
2010. No, yeah.
Well, if we wanted to make this like a really nice and proper crossover podcast, we should have invited someone from another website.
Oh, why didn't you think of that before?
Because I'm not the editor or the guy who runs the podcast.
We totally could have found someone. Oh, well.
Yikes. Anyway.
So, crossover games.
Yeah, this is about crossover games. Professor Layton versus Phoenix Wright. Two games that I have never played.
Awesome.
Now, I know Michael Gray has played both of those games. Mike Ridgway, have you also?
No. Vangie, it plays Professor Layton. Actually, Vangie should be here. She's around the apartment somewhere. I should get her out here. But she has played all of them. She just wrapped up the new one for the new Professor Layton, and she has played all the Phoenix Wrights. So she'd be a good person to ask about this. I don't know why I'm here and she's not, to tell the truth.
We should get her and Michael Gray to discuss who should date whom between the games.
But I am excited because, I watch her play the Professor Layton games, and I love the style of them. The animation's beautiful. I love the music. And I love Phoenix Wright. And my only qualm with this game is that it probably won't have Miles Edgeworth, who is, as we know, the goddamn man. So
it does seem like it's going to be a crossover where it's specifically they're only going to have the two main characters from each series, so we're not going to see cameo appearances from, say, other Phoenix Wright characters or other Professor Layton characters.
Although, wouldn't you just love to see puzzles hosted by Gumshoe? Because that would be kind of great.
Those would be the easy ones. They would be great. Yeah, I don't know why. That's one of my questions about the game is why they purposely decide to make this take place in some sort of fictional universe.
Yeah, actually, I liked what you wrote about that, Michael. How people were saying it was totally unrealistic that these two series could ever meet because they're from two different countries.
Isn't Professor Layton supposed to be, like, in the past or something? I mean, I have no idea.
No, he's from Britain. They have Big Ben. That's actually the plot of the Professor Layton movie, is somebody has stolen Big Ben, and he's been hired to solve the mystery.
Yeah, but what time period is he in?
With puzzles. Also, Vangie is here to add her opinion. Go, Vangie,
There are
go.
huge robots, so it's probably modern times, because people couldn't build robots, say, 50 years ago.
I see.
The first game
Vangie,
is the entire town is androids. It's so lame.
Vangie, what are your thoughts on the new Professor Layton Phoenix Wright game, having played all of them?
Looks cool.
Speak up, dear.
Thank you, Vangie. That's it. Okay, see you later.
It looks like fun.
It does look like fun.
I wish it had fewer Professor Layton-style puzzles, personally.
Vangie, who do you think should go out between the two games?
Who do I think should go out?
As in, like, date. Which of the characters do you think should date?
I don't think any of the characters should date.
You don't want to see Luke and Maya get together?
Ew.
No!
No. It's Luke and Pearl. They're the same age, so they gotta hang out and be BFFs.
Isn't Luke, like, in his teens?
No, he's like
probably
10.
about 10 or 11.
Yeah. They're about the same age, but from the pictures we've seen so far, they take place in the fourth Professor Layton game, which is supposed to be like a sequel, or not a sequel, a prequel. See, this would make sense if we actually had the fourth game, which is only in Japan right now, but the fourth game is supposed to tell the story of how Professor Luke first met Layton. Wait.
Wow.
I'm sorry. It's supposed to tell the story of how Professor Layton first met Luke. And Luke is still wearing that costume that he has from the fourth game, so presumably it takes place a couple of years before the first three Layton games.
So do you think they're going to wait until at least Professor Layton 4 comes out here before releasing this game here?
Probably.
I don't know. I'm kind of concerned about that because the 3DS will be out by the time they can get around to finishing Professor Layton number 4. So, I mean, will they have to change it to make it a 3DS game, or will they just skip over it? They're kind of skipping over the movie. They said the movie won't be released anywhere besides Japan and Europe.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if they still just released it for the DS anyway. There's usually a little overlap when a new system comes out, when they're still releasing games for the old system.
And I imagine you'll still be able to play DS games on 3DS.
Oh, yeah. Then again, the Phoenix Wright series were all Game Boy Advance games, and then when they came here, they were on the DS, so...
I mean, the newer DS games don't have... I mean, the newer DS systems don't have backwards compatibility.
That's right,
So
they don't have the Game Boy Advance slot at all, do they?
No. So
No, but I mean, this is the first gen of the 3DS system, so I think it's going. I think we're going to see that.
The cartridges are supposed to be like the same size, right? Maybe did I hear that? Maybe I
same
didn't hear
size, got a little tab sticking out on the edge, so you can't stick them in a normal DS.
But I mean, the new Pokemon is for the DS, and then will probably come out at the same time as the 3DS here. I'm fairly certain you'll be able to do both on one machine, like 3DS games and regular DS games. But that's not really on topic for what we're supposed to be discussing.
Oh, okay. Well, back to Phoenix Wright and Professor Layton. We've seen a bunch of Layton-style cutscenes, which look awesome because now they have like a full-blown animation department working for the Layton series, but we haven't really seen any gameplay.
Well, I think what they said, it's supposed to have Professor Layton-style puzzles plus, like, Phoenix Wright-style...
Contradiction.
Yes, contradiction-seeking. So I'm guessing they're probably going to be independent of one another. Maybe, like, instead of the investigation scenes, you're going to have the puzzle scenes, and then after that I'll go to the court where you do the normal courtroom stuff. Maybe.
Could be.
But I don't actually know what I'm talking about.
I just thought they were just trying to use a buzzword from each of the series to make everybody think that the gameplay is going to be awesome.
You don't think it's going to be awesome?
Well, it will be awesome, but...
It will be awesome, but I'm not sure how it's going to be. Oh, it's going to be a mix of the two. I think it should be more...
At their heart, they're both puzzle games, and it's not like they're like one's a puzzle, one's an action game, and it's going to suck if you put them together. They're both puzzle games. And when we get
Phoenix
down
Wright
to it,
versus Bioshock.
the core is the same for these games. There's just, slightly different ways of doing the puzzles.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying, I think it's going to be like what Paul said. I think we're going to have the two things separated rather than what they gave us was the slogan saying the two will be mixed together in one thing. I think what they'll do is have a Layton section, then a Phoenix Wright section, and just switch back and forth between the two.
That's not necessarily a bad thing, though.
Okay, so Jetty hasn't said anything in forever, which I think means we need to move on to a crossover game that he's actually played, such as...
Battletoads and Double Dragon.
Good times.
Right?
AKA the other crossover game.
We're going back about 20 years here to reach another crossover game.
Yes, the Super Nintendo side-scrolling classic, I guess?
No, it was regular Nintendo.
Was it? No, it was totally... I have it on Super Nintendo.
Really? Because
Could be
I was...
Super Nintendo.
Like,
It was on both.
No,
it was on both.
Okay, maybe it was on both. I don't know, because I literally...
It was on both, guys.
Just before the podcast, I was playing it on the NES.
It was on both Nintendo and Super Nintendo. It was a dual release.
Whoa!
Not only that, it was also later ported to Sega Genesis and Game Boy.
What?
I have no idea. That's just what Wikipedia says.
Wow. Thank you, Wikipedia.
Yeah, it says it was originally on the NES and then later ported to Genesis, Super Nintendo, and Game Boy. Super Nintendo version's the one I played. I don't think I still have it, though, because it was too hard for me, as so many games are.
Anyway.
Why do I even play video games?
Right? What is a game that's not too hard for you, Paul Franzen?
Most adventure games aren't.
Right? Yeah.
Hence why
That's
they're
true.
my favorite.
Well, here, I'm gonna run down a list of crossover games.
Are you looking at Wikipedia?
No, I'm not.
What? Okay. Paul, keep track of what he says and see if he says anything that's not on Wikipedia.
Yeah,
Not on
have-
Wikipedia? Okay.
We have the fighting games. So we've got
Yeah.
Tatsunoko versus Capcom, Capcom versus Marvel, the King of them all, Smash Brothers. And if anyone refutes that, you're wrong. Then we have, your stuff where you smash.
There's also Dissidia.
Now, are we talking like two video game franchises smashed together, or are we talking like TV stuff smashed together? Because there's a lot of
that's something we were talking about a little before the podcast started, how there aren't like a whole lot of games that are just like, this is one series, this is another series, they're coming together. There's a lot more where...
you have a recent one from Sony where it's like Sly Cooper, Ratchet and Clank, someone else, all adventuring together.
Really?
Yeah.
It's for the move, I believe.
The other ones I
I
don't
know
know.
about
Yeah, it's coming out, or has it already been released? It's for the it's for the PlayStation Move, so I guess that
might
means it's
already
already been released.
Because, if you're talking about video games and not necessarily video game characters, of course there is Kingdom Hearts.
Yes, well, yeah, it's...
Oh, that totally counts.
But I mean, there's also video game characters, because I guess there's Final Fantasy characters in it,
Yeah.
right?
There's Dissidia, too.
Yeah.
That's a crossover in a way. That's a crossover. If Smash Brothers is a crossover, then that's a crossover.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, for
So
that
a lot
matter,
of-
there's all of the Mario sports games.
Yeah.
Well, actually, maybe not, because I guess most of those, someone can correct me if I'm wrong, most of those actually just have characters from the Mario series, unlike Smash Brothers.
No, I think the crossover aspect has lent itself best in the past to fighting games. Just because you can throw the characters in there. You don't have to do a lot of stuff for their individual universes and making stories. You just have them beat the hell out of each other. And a lot of the time, that's just what people want. It's like, oh, I think this guy's tougher. Oh, I think this guy's tougher. Well, fight it out.
Mario vs. Donkey Kong.
That's, well, hold on, wait. Mario vs. Donkey Kong, like the original Donkey Kong game? Was that a crossover? Or was it like a...
It's a Game Boy series, though. Like Mario vs. Donkey Kong. It was a Game Boy series. Like the Mario Minis, but not actually Mario, but they still called it Mario vs. Donkey Kong.
Yeah, that's in addition to Mario being in the original Donkey Kong game.
See, but that was like a crossover before crossovers.
Whoa.
Like before either game became like a real game on its own, they started together.
So, really, it's like the other games are just, like, the Mario series is a spin-off of the Donkey Kong series.
Weird.
In one. Actually, is that true, though? When did the Mario Brothers game come out? Not Super Mario Brothers, but Mario Brothers.
That's a good question.
I don't know if that predates Donkey Kong or not.
The first Mario Brothers game?
Not Super Mario Brothers, just Mario Brothers.
Well, the one where it's like in Super Mario Brothers 3, they have that mini game.
That came out before. That was an arcade game. That came out before Super Mario Brothers.
Did it come out before Donkey Kong?
I'm not sure if that came out. I don't know. That must have come out after because Super Mario was originally.
That's the question: is whether Mario originated in Donkey Kong or whether he was in Mario
he
Brothers
originated
first
in
and then
Donkey.
crossed over.
He originated in Donkey Kong.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds right. So then Mario was a spin-off of Donkey Kong.
Wow. Donkey Kong got the shaft on that one.
It's like Family Matters being a spin-off of that other show I've never heard of.
What?
Same thing. But the spin-off podcast, that's a later podcast.
Okay, so here we go. Donkey Kong 1981, Donkey Kong Jr. 1982, and Mario Brothers 1983.
Wow.
Okay.
Wait,
Oh,
Mario was
there's-
in Mike Tyson's Punch-Out? What?
Yeah, he was the referee.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Duh.
Yeah. No, he wasn't someone you fight.
Oh, well then that's not... Well, is that on Wikipedia's list of crossovers? We'd better put that on there. And Mario was in Tetris? What?
On the Game Boy, yes. If you played versus mode, it was Mario versus Luigi.
Oh, hey.
Yeah, I only barely know that because I
Wait,
used to play against my brother.
Did it have like a 2-player mode?
Yes,
on the
you
Game
hooked
Boy?
up. You hooked up
with
through
the link cables?
Yes, and I played
Yes.
it with my brother.
That's
I
awesome.
have that link cable, actually. I can't use it because nobody has a Game Boy anymore, but I still have the Game Boy link cable.
I think I have one somewhere too. I'm not sure if I ever used it for anything.
Yeah, I have a working like old fat Game Boy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
Me
we could link cable together, Michael Gray.
Awesome. I don't have Tetris, though.
Oh, well, don't worry, because I have like 3 copies of it.
Oh, that's good.
How do you not have Tetris?
Thought it came with it.
Mine came with Animaniacs.
What?
Wow! Man, did you get screwed?
Wow.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, I shouldn't
I mean, I'm
apologize.
assuming-
It's not my-
I'm assuming that the original Game Boy version of Animaniacs isn't a great game.
It's not that
You
good
guys
either,
should-
yeah. But it's not my fault, it's Mom. She got it for me, and she went with Animaniacs instead of Tetris.
Wow, what a bundle. So what are other crossover games that people like?
Someone was talking about Mario and Sonic.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, that's a good example. Mario and Sonic at the the Olympics and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What a disappointment. The
Yeah,
first time that they make a game starring Mario and Sonic and they make it Wii Sports? Where's my Mario Sonic co-op side-scrolling game?
They don't make
Gonna-
side-scrolling games anymore.
Yeah, what is
They
it?
totally
What
do.
is a side-scrolling game in 3D?
Well, I mean, there's new Super Mario Brothers.
I think that's more of a 2D game.
I was just saying that it's a side-scroller that is relatively new. Also, Kirby's Epic Yarn.
Which is awesome, by the way.
Have you played it?
I have it. It is brilliant. Paul, you'd
I'm-
like
I'm-
it. It is. You can't die,
That's why I'm excited about it.
but it's still very, very fun.
I want to play through it with Lizzo sometime if I can.
I'm hesitant about that game. I don't understand the appeal of
Do you hate yarn?
What's the point of yarn?
Michael Gray, trust me, it is delightful.
Okay. I'm not... What exactly is Kirby? I mean, he's pink.
He's a pink thing that eats stuff.
And he doesn't do it in Kirby's Epic Yarn because it's not a Kirby game.
He whips stuff.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. There's a whole bunch of Kirby games.
Really?
Oh yeah. I mean, he's been around since the NES.
I know, but I thought that
there's
the big
Kirby's
deal
Adventure on the
about-
NES.
like first game for him in like 5, 6, 7 years. Because is Kirby's Air Ride or something for the GameCube, right?
There was also Kirby 64, I think.
Yeah, Kirby and the Crystal Shards, something not that
Wait,
great.
Kirby and the
Mm.
Crystal Skull?
No.
Crystal Stars. No, the Amazing Mirror. Something like that. Yeah.
Amazing Mirror, but there's like the Crystal Shards on 64. Amazing
Yeah.
Mirror for Game Boy Advance. It's,
Indiana Jones and the...
you've got Kirby's
Crystal
Dreamland which is
Shards.
for the Kirby's Dreamland for the Game Boy, Kirby's Adventure for
That'd be
the
great,
NES,
also.
Kirby's Superstar for the SNES, Kirby's Dreamland 2 for Game Boy. You have Kirby 64. I think Kirby is like Kirby and the Crystal Shards. Kirby and the Amazing Mirror for Game Boy Advance. Kirby Superstar Ultra for DS. Kirby's Dream Course for SNES. Kirby's Air Ride for N64, I think, or maybe GameCube. I'm not sure. And Kirby's Epic Yarn. I think that's all of them.
See, that's why it's good to have Mike on the podcast, because he actually knows things.
Does he know about crossover games?
Yeah, but my question is, has Kirby done anything really noteworthy since say, the Nintendo 64, since 3D gaming.
Except for being one of the most overused characters in Super Smash Brothers, not a whole lot. No.
Yeah, that's what that's
Okay.
the point I was trying to make.
So is Kirby's Epic Yarn is the best Kirby game in a while?
Yes, it's an
Yeah.
excellent game all around. Not just for a Kirby game. It's excellent.
Cool.
I highly
So has Kirby ever crossed over into any other games?
Smash Brothers.
Ah,
That's about it.
Yeah,
that
right.
didn't go anywhere.
Most crossover games, well, like, there aren't a lot of crossover games. There are just games with, like, brief cameos. Like, as we discussed in the last podcast, Samus and Link were in Super Mario RPG, briefly.
Yeah, that's a cameo, but not a crossover.
Yeah, I mean, well, like, also, Chrono Trigger had, Vix and Wedge.
Really?
Yeah. Like,
Oh, cool.
okay, in the beginning of Final Fantasy III, Vix and Wedge, like, disappear. They're transported to wherever, you don't really know what happens. And then, a couple years later, they show up randomly in the beginning of Chrono Trigger.
Oh, that's kind of awesome. I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
Well, I know it was Vix and Wedge. I didn't know it was supposed to be the same people. Or are you just making that up, Jetty?
Well, I mean, but you could also say the same thing about, like, oh, well, Sid is in all of the Final Fantasies or whatever. So, like, I always imagined that they got transported through the beam in the beginning of Final Fantasy III into the world of Chrono Trigger.
I imagine that you're making this up.
No.
I always thought just Sid was a very popular name, and that's why he appears in a bunch of Final Fantasy games.
Yeah, they're not meant to be the same character, are they?
Well, because that's another question, is that, like, if you look at the NX games, Soul Blazer, Illusion of Gaia, and Terranigma, they all have Turbo the Dog, etc. Like,
Yeah, it's true.
it's a very, like, I don't think it's the same character, but it's the same name, and they briefly appear or are mentioned or whatever.
Yeah.
There's a couple other ones, I don't remember what their names were, though. I think Dr. Leo shows up.
Maybe.
I don't know. Anyway. But then, like, Breath of Fire 1 and 2, in 2, you have Blue as, like, a secret character, and she was a main character in the original game.
But again, we're talking about cameo characters, and
Yeah.
not crossover.
Full-blown crossovers. Let's see. I
Well,
believe
of
we
course,
mentioned
there's
this before.
the PlayStation 2 classic Nicktoons Battle for Volcano Island.
I like
Don't
that
laugh,
one.
I actually beat that game.
What?
I beat that one.
Whoa.
Just-
Paul Franzen beat a video game.
That's right, and I didn't even use game FAQs.
What?
Yeah, that's right.
You're making stuff up.
I swear, I did not use any FAQs or anything to beat Nicktoons Battle for Volcano Island.
Okay, so who are these characters on? Oh, okay.
I actually didn't even know who most of them were.
This is what I liked, because 2 of the TV shows were canceled before the release of the game. Danny Phantom and Jimmy Neutron, both were canceled, so
I actually like those, kind of.
I kind of liked them too, but then Nickelodeon did the move where they air a new episode once and never air it again because they want to cancel the series. The last season was just like, you knew they were going to cancel the show, so why did they bother even having a last season?
I kind of feel like it would have been a better game if it had older Nicktoon characters in it, like Doug and Ren and Stimpy. Doug in a beat-em-up platformer would just be wonderful.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, we do have Cartoon Network Racing, which did that, which was strange.
Doug was in it?
No, but I mean, Cartoon Network Racing, which came out recently, had all these characters not from modern Cartoon Network shows, but from the shows that were airing around the same time as Doug. I mean, it starred all these characters from shows which had not been shown on Cartoon Network for like 5-6 years.
Yeah, I'm looking it up on Wikipedia now. It's like Johnny Bravo, Cow and Chicken, the Powerpuff Girls, I Am Weasel,
Wow.
kind of always hope they'll bring those shows back.
Courage the Cowardly Dog.
I love that show.
Courage the Cowardly Dog still gets some airtime, but that's the only one.
Well, Courage is also slightly more recent.
I would have totally loved that game if it was all old Nickelodeon stuff, but I'm guessing I probably would have been the only person buying it.
See, the interesting thing, though, is that game, like, it is a crossover, and it is a video game, but it's not really a crossover video game. It's not like 2 existing video game series meeting each other.
It's true.
Yeah.
And there wasn't really much of a story tying them all together either. I kind of, if I remember correctly, it was just like, oh look, there's SpongeBob. He's going to join you on your adventure now. And that was the story.
That works.
Bum.
Well, see, but okay, so there aren't that many crossover video games, but what crossover video games do we wish there were?
That's interesting, because I seen... No, somebody else talk. I'm going to try to look up the thing I'm thinking of.
Uh-oh.
I mentioned this in a GameCola article, so I can actually look it up. This is awesome.
Oh, I think I know what you were talking about, and I was going to mention it.
Go ahead. We could be talking about different things.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking when you made a joke about Telltale making a crossover Monkey Island Day of the Tentacle game.
That'd be kind of cool.
Oh, that's not what I'm talking about.
Oh, that's not what you're talking about? Yeah. And maybe
No.
Sam and Max also, Grim Fandango. Any combination of any of those games. Why not? I mean, the gameplay would obviously be super easy to do because they're all the same exact kind of game. It's just a question of making it at all reasonable that these series would be together.
See, I end up feeling like crossover games are kind of cheap.
Why?
I'm not a fan of them usually, just because they're like, oh, hey, we'll take some of your existing characters and put them in a game together. Isn't that great? Give us money.
But it is great.
Well, see, but that's the thing, though, like...
Sometimes you gotta do it really well, otherwise it sucks.
Well, because if you look at fan fiction, like, people are sitting around writing about two different series getting together, like, constantly.
Yeah, I just read some awesome Twilight SpongeBob fanfiction the other day.
Wow.
Actually,
Now,
that sounds
hold
pretty
on a second. With fan fiction, they separate between fanfic and crossover fanfic. Those are on two different separate sections of the website.
Are you saying we're
And in
using the
fact,
terminology
there's one-
improperly?
I hope it was slash fic, actually.
On Phoenix Wright, Professor Layton.
SpongeBob became a vampire, and then I think he ate Sandy.
Yes.
How do you get through the suit?
I'm not sure. I don't think they went into that.
God damn it, that's just poor writing.
They're not paying enough attention to details.
No, not at all.
Well, see, that's why there might be some concern about Professor Layton Phoenix Wright game, because it kind of seems like they're just being transported to a magical town of witches. Like, that's how they get them together.
Well, how do you think witches get people to their town? Magic.
Since when is magic in the... I guess, I don't know. Is magic in the Phoenix Wright series? I guess there's the whole
fucking
thing with...
Magatama!
Yeah. That's mysticism. That's not magic.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, there's a difference.
But I would just have to
Kind
say that, you know, people like crossovers. You know, it's something that we want, and yeah, I guess it is hard to do well, but
I mean, if you pick the right series to mash together, like if you pick two series that both people would enjoy and that would actually make sense to put together, it shouldn't be super difficult. Like if it's two series that exist in the same time period that could conceivably exist in the same universe, you know, it shouldn't be that difficult.
because I guess that's why Phoenix Wright and Professor Layton seems kind of cool. Even though I've never played the games, I vaguely know about the characters, and it seems like, a meeting of two dudes who would sort of, well, would they get along or will they fight with each other, you know?
Oh, the game might go into that.
Yeah, and that's what I think is cool about that.
I think it's half and half. I think the first half of the game, they're going to hate each other, and then in the second half, they decide to join forces and become BFFs.
Yeah.
And to fight the evil witches.
Which aren't really witches.
Aren't they witches?
I'm calling it now. They aren't witches. And they're not really in the Middle Ages. I'm
Yes,
calling it
and
now. They
everyone's
did
a
not
robot,
actually
right?
time travel.
Wait, was this game written by M. Night Shyamalan?
I think,
No, but-
I think Michael Gray is just trying to reference the most recent
Layton game, yeah.
late game.
The Layton game was supposed to be all about time travel, but in the end it really wasn't. They just took an elevator rather than using a time machine.
What?
Yeah, that was my reaction too.
Elevator, time machine, same difference.
What they did is they took an elevator, which took them down to the center of the earth, where somebody built an exact replica of the city of London, designed to look like it was London
That
10
is
years in the
totally
future.
plausible. What's wrong with that?
Wow.
I wanted to see actual time travel, though.
Build your own damn time machine.
Yeah, come on, Michael Gray.
No. I wanted to see actual time travel in the Layton game, which we did get to see a little bit of with
And
Layton.
I say to you, build
His
your
girlfriend.
own time machine. Don't expect Professor Layton to do it for you.
Well, I tried,
I
but it
see.
exploded.
I said good day.
Layton didn't actually build the time machine. His creepy scientist and sleepy prime minister.
Well, maybe you should wait for the crossover between Professor Layton and Time Hollow.
Yeah, I could wait for that.
Professor Layton and Back to the Future?
Whoa.
But
I don't know if the styles of those two series mesh as well together.
Here, I'll blow Paul's mind here. Back to the Future and Phoenix Wright crossover.
Done. I'm there.
Maybe you could throw in some Monkey Island too.
I'm all over it. Make it happen, Telltale.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say, isn't the Back to the Future game being made by Telltale anyway?
It is. Well, yeah, they're making Back to the Future game, and they made the most recent Monkey Island game. Although I don't think they still have the rights to Monkey Island, because they were talking recently about how they're not sure they're going to be able to make another one because LucasArts isn't necessarily being friendly about it anymore.
I heard that Marty McFly is being voiced by Justin Bieber in the new Back to the Future game.
Yeah. Was that just the rumor that I made up?
Was it?
I made it up on the website.
Oh, I was just making it up in my head. Maybe I vaguely remembered it from the website.
Yes, that's absolutely true.
Because I like to say things that hurt you.
Well, it didn't work because I already made that joke. No, he's being voiced. He's not being voiced by Michael J. Fox, but he's being voiced by an incredible sound-alike that sounds way more like Marty McFly than Michael J. Fox does.
How is that possible?
Well, does or did?
Does, not did.
Yeah, okay, I was gonna say.
Yeah, no, I mean, 1985 Michael J. Fox does a pretty good Marty McFly impression, but no, the guy sounds really good. He actually sounds a lot better than Christopher Lloyd as Doc Brown, to be honest.
What's wrong with Christopher Lloyd playing Doc?
Oh, nothing's wrong with it. He just doesn't sound as much like Doc Brown as he did 25 years ago.
Yeah, but he's much older than Michael J. Fox, so this argument that Michael J. Fox is too old to play his original character seems kind of bad.
I'm not saying he's too old to play him, I'm just saying the guy they got to play him sounds great.
Why do you hate the original cast of Back to the Future?
I love Michael J. Fox. He did a great job of voice acting in Stuart Little and Return to Atlantis.
That would be awesome. I have no idea. I haven't heard him play that role recently. All I'm saying is that the new guy is great. That's it.
And that you hate Michael J. Fox.
And that I hate Michael J. Fox and Back to the Future and anything that has anything to do with it.
All right. Well, at least you're honest about it.
It'd be great. Back to the Future crossover with Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
I'm sure if Christian Porter were here, he would say, in order for them to go back in time and not make that movie.
That is not funny. That is not funny at all. I don't know why you're laughing.
I would like to see an Indiana Jones and Star Wars crossover just so I could see Harrison Ford play both characters at once.
Actually, did you see that they did a performance just like that at Disney World like a couple months ago? There's a YouTube video of it. They actually did a Star Wars Indiana Jones crossover at like the Indiana Jones Stunt Spectacular.
Wow.
Watch that.
That's Disney World, right?
Yes.
MGM.
Yeah, we don't have that at Disneyland. We're sad.
A lot of that.
I should go over and see it because I live, around the corner from there.
But it wasn't actually Harrison Ford playing both roles, was it?
No, it wasn't.
In real life, he was playing at the same time.
It was Justin Bieber.
Kids everywhere.
I could never tell the difference between Star Wars and Indiana Jones when I was a kid because they both had Harrison Ford in it, by the way.
Wow.
It's like the same guy was playing the same character in both movies.
It's very confusing.
Yes, but the crossover game that we all wanted to see is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Battletoads.
That could work. I mean, it's nonsensical enough to work.
And let's throw Street Sharks in there for
Street Sharks?
Yes, we'll throw in Street Sharks just for good measure. I'm trying to think of what other Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles ripoffs came on. I mean, I guess there was Biker Mice from Mars.
I think I saw that there was like a PS2 Biker Mice from Mars game that came out within like the last 5 years.
Really? Like still?
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I think I vaguely remember that.
So Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Battletoads.
I'm not really feeling it. I'm going to look at the Wikipedia page, see what else there is.
Now, see, I always like the Scooby-Doo ones, where they always had like a celebrity come in. It was sort of like a crossover.
Yeah,
that's not a video game.
Yeah.
They'd have Don Knotts, and the other week they had Batman.
Batman
was awesome.
Didn't they have the Harlem Globetrotters? They must have.
Oh, yes, they did. They did a couple.
Yeah, they did. The Harlem Globetrotters. They solved the mystery animation.
Well, I mean, if we're expanding to talk about cartoons, we need to bring up Jetsons Meet the Flintstones.
Of course.
The greatest crossover in the history in any medium, I argue. It was perfect.
I don't know. I think there's a very good Telegraph crossover. It was, I don't know where I'm going with that.
slash fan fiction between Alexander Graham Bell and Thomas Edison. Never mind.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So how about the Soul Calibur series? We haven't talked about that yet.
What is the Soul Calibur series? Is it just a fighting series?
It's just fighting, yeah.
It's a fighting game. It has weapons. You hit people
There's a character named Ivy in the series, right?
Yes.
Yes. And she wears very skimpy clothing. Although really, as far as video games go, I mean, skimpy clothing doesn't really distinguish you or anything.
But I think several of them had cameo characters. There was Soul Calibur.
Yeah. One had Link. One had Yoda.
Yeah, that was awesome. Link was awesome in that game. Or maybe I just thought that because that was the only character I played with. Oh, him and the pirate guy.
Cervantes, if I recall.
But what about, if we're going to talk about, again, crossovers with non-video game related, NBA Jams?
Oh.
With then President Bill Clinton and then Vice President Al Gore?
Ooh, at least Bill Clinton is also in the new NBA Jam that just came out last month.
Really?
Oh, yeah. It has Bill and Hillary. It has Obama. Is Dick Cheney in it? George Bush, maybe. Sarah Palin's in it.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, they did that specifically because everyone loved it so much in the Super Nintendo one.
Yeah. He's on fire! It was just fun to get Al Gore on fire.
And then Fox News did a segment about asking the developers, because they had discovered that there were some super special moves that Obama had, and they thought they were showing partisanship there.
Wow.
Really? Did they really? No, why am I saying that? Of course they
Of
said
course
something
they
stupid
did.
like that.
Now hold on a second, Paul. I thought the news segment they were saying it's racist that President Obama is the one who can play basketball well.
That's not what I got. I got the impression that the game that they were accusing NBA Jam of pushing the liberal agenda.
Okay, that's just weird.
It's on GameCola. Everyone can check it out there.
God, they are fucking dumb. Sorry. They are really dumb.
No, my favorite part of the Daily Show now is just whenever they bring up Fox News, because it's always hilarious.
So, Michael Gray, you were going to go look up a crossover game you had thought of.
Oh, yeah.
Wow,
Let me
short-term memory, Jetty.
Call that back. Official Nintendo Magazine.co.uk, and it's loading. Oh, hey, Donkey Kong Country is returning. Awesome.
Yeah,
that's
comes out like this week. Next week.
Yeah, talk about that. Talk about that for a while.
But,
Gonna be awesome.
Well, actually, talking about free games, indie games, downloadable games, that brings up some more crossover games.
Oh.
Like, what was that where you could play any Nintendo character?
Super Mario crossover.
Yeah.
Yeah. The I guess it's kind of a ROM hack, maybe, of Super Mario Brothers where you can play
yes. I remember seeing that.
Yeah, you can play as Link, you can play as the guy from Contra, you can play as Mega Man, Samus, all using like their same abilities from their own games, but in a Mario world.
Yeah.
Oh, it's wonderful. I love that game.
That wasn't really a crossover.
What?
Yeah, I guess they weren't playing together. That is true.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't like Mario and Mega Man and Samus were all interacting. But I would still say it's a crossover. Because it's whatever those characters are in the Super Mario world. Or, the world of Super Mario Brothers, not Super Mario World. If you get where I'm going with that.
I totally would have bought that game if it was like on the DS.
Mm.
I think the Ninja Gaiden guy is in it too.
Ryu Hayabusa.
And I think, they each have their own theme songs playing in the background too as you play as them. And I think stuff like that's great. I'd love to see more like I'd love to see like plop Sonic in Mario World. See what happens. Actually, it probably wouldn't work as well because
there's no loops to run through.
It's very different game mechanics, but still be interesting.
Yeah, because I think what's cool about the Phoenix Wright Professor Layton is that the characters actually interact and being that they sort of do similar things in their own games, like figuring out stuff. I don't know.
And I mean, there's an actual story there too. Like, there's nothing with a Super Mario crossover. It's just, wouldn't it be cool if you could play Mario Brothers as Samus? Like, that's the story.
Yeah.
Ooh, hey, Professor Light. Wait, Professor Light? No,
Dr. Light?
Phoenix Wright and Professor Layton.
Dr. Light and...
I just think it's cool that would be cool though. Dr. Light meets Phoenix Wright. No, it wouldn't be cool. It would be stupid.
I want to know
Anyway.
whether Phoenix Wright is going to be in one of these Mega Man, the Capcom versus whatever games.
Oh yeah, that would be awesome!
Mega Man Worlds, yeah.
What?
No, Marvel versus Capcom. That's what I mean.
Yeah, Marvel vs. Capcom, and then suddenly...
I would
Objection!
I would buy my first fighting game in like 15 years for that.
I think he is in there.
Is he?
No, I know the official story. They were going to put him in there, but it didn't work.
Yeah, that's right, because they said it wouldn't translate well. Because he was going to have an attack where he just says objection, right? And
objection is two letters.
Okay, yeah, you're right. It would have been fine.
Yeah,
Cowards.
cool.
I think it would have been cool.
Although I got to question how well Phoenix Wright would actually do in a fight versus, for example, Wolverine. And he's not exactly known for his brawling skills. He's known as a good courtroom brawler, but...
Phoenix could do it.
You think so? Edgeworth could do it.
Yeah, Edgeworth. Edgeworth would be his assist.
Well, see, he would just poke everyone in the eye.
Edgeworth would be
Yeah,
his
no,
assist.
he'd come out with the finger.
I don't think Edgeworth would do that.
No, Franziska would whip people into shape, too.
Yeah.
That would be her attack.
I think Phoenix Wright would hit people with his spiky hair. And then he'd poke them in the eye, and he'd go, objection!
Maybe it
Oh.
wouldn't work.
Anyway!
And no, what if, like, Phoenix Wright's transformation would be turning into Drunken Hobo Phoenix? That would be, like, his
And
ultimate
then Paul
mode.
would die a little inside.
Actually,
You play
that's
the piano.
something to bring up, though.
Play the piano for them.
In Professor Wright... oh, God, now I'm doing it. Phoenix Wright versus Professor Layton. Phoenix is very clearly not Hobo Phoenix Wright. So does that mean that we're just pretending Apollo Justice didn't happen, or is this just set before Apollo Justice?
Paul, what do you want it to be?
Well, clearly, I vote for the Apollo Justice was all a horrible nightmare scenario. But
I think maybe that's what the secret ending to this crossover game is going to be.
the secret ending is going to be that the crossover was a dream, and it was just his drunken slumber.
I was excited to say something a while ago. Oh yeah, Phoenix Wright and Professor Layton. We get to hear what Phoenix and Maya sound like, huh?
Yeah.
What?
We know what Phoenix sounds like.
I think, no, they got a different voice actor for him in the Professor Layton game.
What?
Yeah, they just got the game producers to do the voices because they didn't want to pay voice actors. But this time they actually got a professional voice actor.
Yeah, I believe there was something in that vein that you were particularly excited about, wasn't there?
Well, see, maybe in the crossover, whenever Phoenix speaks, he just goes...
That would be awesome.
I wouldn't mind that. No, but the Layton games do have full-on voice acting for, like, sometimes they have full-on voice actings for important scenes that aren't animated. The rest of the time it's just every time the character talks.
I don't know. I always get nervous when they introduce voice acting into a game that didn't have it before, because I don't necessarily trust them to have voices that sound like how they sound in my head.
Yeah.
Like that happened with Toe Jam and
I
Earl
don't
3.
understand that argument. Do you, like, actually play video games and imagine voices for the characters in your head while you're playing?
I think it would be. I don't know.
I do.
I hear I hear voices in my head all the time. So.
Michael Gray, you were looking up your own crossover that you wanted to discuss.
I didn't write any crossover fan fiction, but no, I was referring to an interview around the time that the latest Miles Edgeworth game came out. When it came out, people were discussing the possibility of some sort of Phoenix Wright crossover, and we have the person who's now in charge of the Phoenix Wright Professor Layton crossover, making jokes about doing Phoenix Wright crossovers. So I was just going to go back to that. And
A Phoenix Wright crossover with Edgeworth?
No. It's an interview with one of the Phoenix Wright guys, and when the Edgeworth game came out, and he's making jokes about how they're totally going to make a Phoenix Wright crossover. And it's funny because they did.
Oh, okay. You just mean like a Phoenix Wright crossover in general, not specifically with the Edgeworth series.
Well, you can't really make a crossover with Edgeworth because Edgeworth is in the series. It's kind of dumb.
Sure, I would
kinda
count
dumb.
Edgeworth as being in the series, but
I mean, he has his own series now, but I don't think like if he came back together. I mean, if he just showed up in a Phoenix Wright game, I don't.
Say
think
it
that
with me now. Kind of dumb.
yeah, kind of dumb.
All right, well,
So,
there is one game that we've been ignoring all of this time.
Uh-oh.
There's
What is it, Paul?
one great crossover that we haven't discussed at all.
What god awful piece of trash you just now, Paul?
I will tell you, I was considering the Japanese only release, a game called Tinkle Pit.
What?
Tinkle Pit.
Is this like a Kid Icarus Zelda crossover?
I actually only just discovered it when I was looking up crossovers on
Sorry,
Wikipedia,
not
so I don't know that much about it. It's an arcade game. It kind of looks like a Bomberman ripoff, but it has characters from a whole bunch of series like Pac-Man, Galaxian, Galaga, Dig Dug, Xavius, Mappy. Basically, it seems like if the character was in an arcade game in the 80s, he also showed up in Tinkle Pit.
Oh, you know what though? That reminds me. There's a crossover game that I forgot to mention. I believe it was a Japanese only release. It's kind of like a rip off of Smash Brothers made by Hudson Soft and Konami or some people. It had like a couple Belmonts in it. It had Bomberman and it had Master what's his name from the Adventure Island games.
Master Chief.
Had a random like the mascot from their baseball games in there. That is all.
That doesn't sound as good as Tinkle Pit.
So what does this have to do with tinkling or pits?
Probably neither.
This is a game that does not
Monsters,
deliver on its title.
hero saves the world, accompanied by an oversized anthropomorphic sleigh bell.
Truth in advertisement.
No, okay, so let's get back to crossover games. I don't think we talked enough about, say, Kingdom Hearts. Do people really think it's a crossover to have characters from different Disney movies in the same sort of
Absolutely.
game?
They are all in their own universes. This is totally a crossover.
Really?
How
I
could
always
it not
thought
be?
they were all in the same universe, though.
Oh, it is totally a crossover.
But don't you always have all these? I mean, it's like a Disney standard to have all these characters from different movies together in the same thing. It happens so often that it doesn't seem like it's a crossover anymore.
It's a crossover every time it happens.
Okay.
Well, like
I don't know.
it's one.
I think so.
It's one thing to say like, oh, there's Donald Duck and there's Goofy and Mickey, but then it's another thing to say like, oh, there's Sebastian and Ariel, and Donald Duck and Goofy and Mickey.
And Aladdin.
Yeah.
And Simba.
Yeah.
I guess. I mean, did anybody see the Disney sing-along songs? I guess it was just me, but I watched those all the time as a kid, and they had the various characters from different movies together in animation.
And
I'm just saying, it didn't seem like a real crossover in the Zippity Doo-Dah where it had like, you know, Captain Hook together with, say, Ariel. No, it's Captain Hook and 101 Dalmatians, who should never be together, but they were together singing.
Wow.
So that's why when I hear about Kingdom Hearts being a crossover, it's like, much of a crossover.
Well,
but
they don't
it's
worry about the fact that there's also all these Final Fantasy characters running around in it, though.
that's what makes
I'm
it...
waiting for the Kingdom Hearts game where they have the racist crows and the old black guy singing about how great.
When
it
are they
is.
going to go into Pixar land? How come they haven't gone into any Pixar movies yet?
Does Disney own Pixar?
Yes.
Yeah, they do now.
Oh, well, now they can.
Actually, Mike, have you played Birth by Sleep yet?
I have not. Vangie has.
Planning to, or?
I
Lizzo
tried a
really
little bit
enjoyed
of it, but then Fallout New Vegas came out, and I loved it.
No, she's been playing it. She has described it as Disney Princesses, the RPG. It's like the first several were all just like Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty, all those kind of movies.
Yeah.
Very weird.
Yeah, what about the Disney Princesses games? Do people count those as crossovers?
They have those. Paul,
Yes.
you're the master of, games that no man in his right mind would play. Well, how are those
Okay,
games?
how many times have you written about Barbie's Horse Adventures again?
Yeah, I was just gonna say.
2, I think, because I heard about it on Penny Arcade.
No,
I thought you had like 3 in a row that were about Barbie's horse.
Was it
adventures.
3?
No,
I don't
I
even
think one
remember
of those
anymore.
was by Vangie.
One of those was by Vangie.
Yeah, that was when Allie was in. Oh, I remember the characters' names. Allie is the girl, and which one is Tom? Is Tom the guy who's trapped in the game, or the guy who's
Tom is the
friend?
guy who's trapped in the game.
Yeah, the other guy's Rick.
Rick, Tom and Rick, right.
You see,
So-
I'm dying for you to write the next edition of it. I'm really getting into it.
Now that we know that Tom and Allie are going to get married, then we want to see what happens.
Why do you think they're going to get married?
Because that would be a great plot twist. That's what happened in my fan fiction.
But they hate each other.
Yeah.
I know, but look, they have to get married in order to end the Monkey Island game,
No,
right?
here's the ultimate crossover right here.
Uh-oh.
Quantum Geek and the Gates of Life.
See, I was going to say Quantum Geek and Lofi Carl.
Oh,
No.
that would be a good one too.
I don't see what Gates of Light brings to Quantum Geek. I mean,
Well, see, okay, but he would get.
if you take the average of the two of them, you're just going to divide Quantum Geek's quality by 2.
Ouch.
But see, okay,
Particularly
Well,
harsh because I don't even write it anymore.
we were discussing this before, and we think that the Gates of Life is a video game of sorts.
Isn't it supposed to be?
Yeah.
We were discussing this
I
in a
thought it
previous
was.
podcast, weren't we?
Yes, yeah. Well, I think we determined that it has video game elements because of the voting at the end.
Therefore, I think that in Quantum Geek he should be transported into the Gates of Life.
Okay. It's not going to happen.
So crossover games.
I don't think there are any left. I think we
Well,
talked
okay,
about all of them.
but we were saying what are crossover games that we wish
Yes.
would happen.
Yeah, we didn't really delve into that too far.
Listen, I will think that any crossover game sucks until I play it and find out otherwise. So there's nothing I want.
What about Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest?
No.
Well, see, those would be too difficult because they're like extremely long series. Like if you wanted to say this one Final Fantasy and this one Dragon Warrior, Dragon Quest, whatever.
What if it's Final Fantasy VI and Final Fantasy VII? Would that count as a crossover?
I would say so because they are different universes. Like they're different
Yeah.
worlds. Like it's not like
But it would suck because you're
Probably
you're
would.
befouling Final Fantasy VI with Final Fantasy VII.
I agree.
What?
I agree.
What?
I'll agree with Michael Ridgaway on this one.
I
Because
don't
it's
need
taste.
Cloud and his emo bullcrap mucking with my Edgar and his auto crossbow and my Umaro and my Mog.
I wouldn't purchase it, but I think it would be a good seller. I think there would be a lot of people who would be willing
Oh
to
no,
purchase
there
that
would be
game.
because a lot of
yeah.
people are really stupid.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
He has a point.
I like these podcasts because they just give me an excuse to be angry and say terrible things.
All right. What about Earthbound and Final Fantasy VI?
No, terrible.
What?
Yeah.
They have there's a very different feel to those games though.
Yeah.
I mean,
Definitely.
Earthbound is very, very light. Earthbound has the Final Fantasy games, even the good ones, they're heavy games. It's there's not a lot of room for levity in them. Earthbound is light. It's it's very happy. It's very quirky in a way that just doesn't work for the Final Fantasy series. And anytime they try to do it, it just looks really dumb.
I will not argue with that.
Here's okay. Remember when they tried to make the Final Fantasy movie? Trying to meld Earthbound and Final Fantasy would be like that. It's trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. And that's the way I feel about a lot of crossovers.
All right. So what crossovers are there? Any that you think would work?
I think, like the LucasArts point and click games would, because more than sort of genre, well, they do have the same type of genre point and click adventures, but they have the same type of style and feel, where you have a very kind of funny game that, is in its own way intellectual, but they've all got these really well-defined styles, but they're all similar in that they have these well-defined styles. I think funny games make for good crossovers. Lighter games make for good crossovers. That's why Super Smash Brothers works because, you have a bunch of lighter games. It's not all this drama attached to the characters. I think Double Fine games would make great crossovers. I think you could put... I think you could put
Psychonauts and Brutal Legend?
Psychonauts and Brutal Legend together.
I could see that.
And that would be great. Also, speaking of Double Fine, if you haven't played Costume Quest yet, pick it up. It's only $15. It's so good.
Somehow I knew you'd like that.
But it will make you crave candy like nothing. You will just start shoveling it down your throat. But yeah, that's what I think. I mean, you have to have games that have the same type of feel to them, for lack of a better word.
Okay. And that's of course why Nicktoons Battle for Volcano Island works so well as well.
Well, it probably worked better than some other crossovers that have been attempted.
I mean, yeah.
It's interesting because I can distinctly remember people complaining about Super Smash Brothers, saying how they didn't like the mixture of lighter characters, say like Mario and Kirby, with more
Like
darker
Jigglypuff.
characters like, say,
Oh.
Sam or Snake or Link.
Okay, people who are saying that Link is a dark character are dumb. All right?
Yeah.
Link's not a very dark character. No Nintendo character is very dark. The darkest character in those games, I mean, even Ganon Ganon's a bad guy, but he's a classic archetypal bad guy. He's
he
not
doesn't
that
really
dark.
have much personality. He's just evil.
Right, exactly. And he's about as, dark. Bowser's about as dark as he is. I mean, that doesn't translate. The darkest character in those games is Solid Snake. And he's not, that's because he's not a Nintendo character.
Captain Falcon.
Yeah.
My crossover that I would mind, my crossover that I think I would like to see, Tetris and Dr. Mario.
So would that be pills in a Tetris game, or would that be Tetrominoes in...
Tetrad-shaped pills.
Right? Yeah. Like,
I've played Dr. Mario, but it reminds me of Tetris, so I think it'd be a good crossover.
or is it just Dr. Mario throwing out the Tetrominoes? Like,
That
Did you
could
say
be it.
Tetrominoes?
what? Tetrominoes? Tetraminos?
Tetri?
I thought they were tetrads.
No, they're called Tetrominoes. Like dominoes, but with 4.
You're making
Go
that
look it up on
Jim.
you guys have Wikipedia open already?
Take your word for it.
I won't. I think you're lying.
It's because you're a jerk.
I am a jerk. I still think you're lying.
Tetrominoes. What?
You just
Sometimes-
blew Michael Gray's mind.
Wow.
What?
I want to say, I really do enjoy the hostility I bring to these podcasts.
Oh, it's great. No, actually, one of my favorite
Someone's gotta be the
podcasts
angry-
is the
angry-
one where we talked about Indiana Jones. I thought that was great.
I can tone it down if anybody wants.
No, tone it up more.
Yeah, that's what we keep Christian Porter around for.
You can play Tetris on the iPod now? So, whoa. I thought an iPod just played music. I'm confused.
So speaking of adventure games, there was actually Telltale did actually release a sort of crossover game a month or two ago called Poker Night at the Inventory. Anyone? It's a poker game. It has Max from Sam and Max, a guy from Team Fortress, a guy from Penny Arcade, and Strong Bad, all playing poker. It's a crossover
Not bad.
game.
That's cool.
I play that.
I don't know, a poker game? Seriously?
They needed the money. But they're still making the CSI games.
They are? Wait,
Yeah,
no,
that
can't be
surprised the
Telltale.
crap out of me. Like, this new CSI game came out, like, last week, and it was developed by Telltale. Like, they haven't promoted it anywhere on their website. Like, I'm on their press mailing list, nothing. But it totally was developed by Telltale.
Maybe they just copied and pasted and just like changed some of the text.
Maybe.
Probably. But they probably don't need to do a whole hell of a lot for those games.
I believe Christian Porter has had some nasty things to say about them in the past.
Yes.
At least the one he played.
It had a lot of advertisements in it.
I like the Nancy Drew and Hardy Boys crossover, although that was so popular that now they exist in the same universe, so it's not a crossover anymore.
That blew
I
my
thought they
mind
already
when I
did.
saw that on one of your video walkthroughs, where all of a sudden they just decided to call the Hardy Boys. I had no idea that was
Wow.
a thing.
They're banging.
It started off as crossover, and now it's the same universe. It's so weird.
Because they're banging.
No.
Wait. Both of the Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew?
They're freaky like
Okay,
that.
this is it. I can't be on this podcast.
Sometimes they invite the Babysitters Club over.
So, Jetty, have we gotten any mail on the podcast?
No.
No?
No.
Unless it's going to my spam. But I specifically made a filter for anything.
Well, if any GameCola podcast fans out there wanted to email us about this podcast or any other podcast they listen to, even if it's not actually a GameCola podcast, whatever, we're lonely. How could they do that?
Also, suggest topics you want to hear.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Or just, say like, hey, I want to hear Mike Ridgaway yell about such and such, or hey, I want to hear a list of the worst things Mike Ridgaway can call Paul Franzen, or hey, I want to hear Mike Franzen.
What?
I want to hear Mike that. I want to hear Mike kicking Paul in the crotch. We'll do it.
What?
Mike Franzen is the ultimate crossover between Michael Ridgaway and Paul Franzen.
And on that note, it's been wonderful talking to you all. This has been the GameCola podcast. Thank you.
Yes, good night, everybody.
No, but
Good
wait,
night.
how can they email us?
Oh, yeah, that's right. They don't know how to email us yet. They email us at podcast@gamecola.net. And tell us what you want in the podcast. Or send us what you liked about the podcast or what you didn't like about the podcast.
Or you can tell us which crossovers you would like to see.
Yeah, or why you don't like Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Or why you do.
But most likely why you don't.
Or why you think Michael Gray should come back to the GameCola staff.
Yay. I
In addition,
actually submitted a question for discussion on the GameCola podcast that didn't get discussed, really. So, on the Metroid podcast, I sent in a letter, but it didn't get read, and it made me sad.
Oh.
Did you send a letter to podcast@gamecola.net?
I sent it to Nathaniel Hoover because he was hosting that podcast.
Oh.
And then he just totally forgot to read it.
Yikes.
Bummer.
Oh,
Listen,
well.
this is what you need to remember about Nathaniel. He is the worst human being that has ever lived.
Yes, it's not me.
Besides Paul Franzen.
Oh! Ouch.
Nap.
Yeah, that happened.
You can also follow GameCola on Twitter. It's at GameCola, I think.
Are we tweeting now?
Oh, we've been
Oh,
tweeting.
gee.
Well, we're just tweeting whenever there's a new article. It's not really that exciting.
And
If someone wanted
Way
to
to
tweet
sell
for
it,
interesting
Paul.
things, they could.
Way to sell it.
You can also
follow us on-
subscribe. Wait, were you going to say follow us on Facebook?
I was going to say Facebook, yeah.
Yeah, you can like us on Facebook. And you can subscribe to the podcast on iTunes.
Is
And
there
if you
any
do
other
that,
way we can
make
pay
sure
it
to-
to our audience?
Make sure to rate us really high if you do that, and leave wonderful reviews.
Also, do we still have that Cafe Press open?
It might still be open, but it's not used.
Did anyone ever buy anything?
My mom did. She bought a t-shirt for me.
Wow.
It was a Be Careful What You Search For t-shirt. It was pretty awesome, actually.
Nice.
I was going to buy something once, but then I didn't.
No.
Is there a better man?
We have no store at the moment.
I was too late to purchase the Inside the Guide t-shirt. I just suddenly remembered that. It's like, hey, wait, I remember seeing the Inside the Guide t-shirt
Yeah,
on the
with
store.
the squirrel logo.
Yeah, and so I went back and it was removed, and I'm like, oh.
See, I
Oh.
actually had a thought recently that's something that I wanted to do because a favorite thing of mine. Remember we had discussed previously yard sales and going to a yard
Yes.
sale and buying like a shirt from a school that was like 3 states away.
Yes.
Now see, what I want to do is buy GameCola t-shirts and give them away to thrift stores. And then, 10 years from now, I'll see some kid wearing a Be Careful What You Search For t-shirt. And I'll go, wow.
It would be cool.
Yeah.
See, that was the
kinda
big
come
problem
back
with
to the way
Cafe
you're
Press, though,
building
was each t-shirt was like $25 or something.
Yeah.
That was why I stopped maintaining it, because it wasn't even worth it for me to buy the shirts.
Well, here's what you do. Open up your own thrift store. and then, like, artificially age the shirts. Hell, bring them to my neighborhood. The hipster kids will eat them up. They're not that smart either.
Yeah.
You just tell them that it's hip and cool, and they'll buy it and wear it.
Tell them it's a vintage GameCola t-shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can have the old logo on it and everything.
Right?
Pretend like you were like one of the first game things on the internet.
Yeah.
They'll be like, oh, cool, it's so old and ironic. Let me give you too much money to put it on. And then you can sell them like a Pabst Blue Ribbon just to seal the
Yes, the PBR.
This is why Vangie married me, because I just hate on everything.
Yikes. So crossover games.
Isn't this podcast over yet?
But, yeah, I guess we should wrap this up. So we talked today about crossover games, I think. Did we? Did we actually talk about that?
A little bit. We
bit.
talked about, like, the
Here and
3
there.
crossover games there are.
And crossover games we wish existed?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like, Earthbound and Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
Oh.
Maybe. But anyway, we talked about crossover games. And, how there need to be more. Because there aren't any, and we managed to have a podcast about it without there really being any.
It would be nice if there were more.
Yeah, then we could have another podcast about it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But in any event, we tried. We had a podcast anyway. And, now it's over. So thank you everyone for coming along. Paul Franzen, Michael Gray, Michael Ridgaway.
Well, thank you, Jetty.
Yup.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, anytime. Yeah, this has been podcast number 32. So, goodbye everyone.
Doodles.
Bye.
Mm-hmm.
Yay.
Wait, what's gonna go at the end of this podcast?